Now at 5, President Donald Trump returns to Manhattan. Amid protests, questions about his handling of the attack in Charlottesville.
The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement.
And the administration's push to change focus.
No longer will we allow the infrastructure of our magnificent country to crumble and decay.
Tonight, the twists and turns in the Trump presidency.
Now, the president may have wanted to talk about infrastructure this afternoon, but he was asked a lot of questions about the incident in Virginia and how he reacted.
He's defending that response, and he's not backing away from, quote, blaming both sides. CBS 4's Brook Silva-Braga is live tonight outside the Trump Tower, where the president's news conference just wrapped up. Brook.
Good afternoon, Elliot and Rutabe. Well, as you suggest, we plan to be talking about some new infrastructure plans from the president, but instead he got involved in an extended and very contentious exchange with the press just a few minutes ago. And it mainly focused on his response, as you say, to those violent and ultimately deadly protests in Charlotte. He, of course, was criticized for not specifically condemning neo-Nazi groups by name in his initial response. And in fact, to a certain extent, blaming both sides was the phrase he used for that violence. The press pressed him on why he had said that, and he had a forceful defense.
I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I didn't wait long. I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct, not make a quick statement. The statement I made on Saturday, the first statement, was a fine statement, but you don't make statements that direct unless you know the fact. It takes a little while to get the facts. You still don't know the facts. And it's a very, very important process to me. And it's a very important statement. So I don't want to go quickly and just make a statement for the sake of making a political statement. I want to know the facts.
And so then the president actually pulled out a paper copy of the original statement he had made on Saturday, rereading it and defending its content. He then, when pressed to talk about the man, James Alex Fields Jr., who is believed to have driven into that crowd in Charlottesville, he was asked if he was a terrorist, and he said, "You could use the word terrorist. I would also call him a murderer." But then, in what will be certainly the most controversial thing that happened at this press conference moments ago, he seemed to draw an equivalency. He did, to some extent, definitely draw an equivalency between the alt-right protesters that many describe as Nazis and the left-leaning people who were also there this weekend.
Okay, what about the alt-left that came charging at him? Excuse me. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt?
Let me
ask you this. What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute. I'm not finished. I'm not finished, fake news. That was a horrible day. I will tell you something. I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you have, you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that.
And then after going through this whole contentious thing about Charlotte, he was asked what has, to some extent, been the news of the day before this press conference, whether he would hold on to chief strategist Steve Bannon, who CBS News reports is on the ropes and could be fired as soon as this week. Here was Trump's response.
Well, we'll see. Hey, look, I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine. But Mr. Bannon came on very late. You know that. I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on very much later than that. And I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist. I can tell you that. He's a good person. He actually gets a very unfair press in that regard. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Bannon. But he's a good person, and I think the press treats him, frankly, very unfairly.
One more note on the president's comments seemingly to equating the right wing and left wing folks who are in Charlotte this weekend. The former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke tweeted moments after the press conference, "Thank you, President Trump, for your honesty and courage to tell the truth about Charlottesville and condemn the leftist terrorists in Black Lives Matter and Antifa."